ladies and gentlemen, it is February 14th, 2022, and this is Babylon 5, FAWMtalk. Yes, that's right. I'm, of course, Juha, and with me, as always, my welding-goggled co-host, Mr. Head First Only, Chris. How you doing?
Hello, I am prepared for the pink. Mate, I think you've got your wrong display popping up on OBS because I'm seeing your desktop at the moment.
Oh no, that's not good.
Or no, I know what this is me. This is my glitch. This is what I've done. I've pressed the wrong button.
We're
there
good.
We go.
Hopefully we're good.
Oh, I was going. That's not me.
Well, the important part is that everybody seems to be getting my pretty face. So. I don't know.
That is a very, very pink surround of our images today. It's like, I have to say,
adequately pink.
Adequately pink, yeah. Music. Good evening. Hello, also to French Doggy, to Alex, our own very own Metalfoot, to Paul, our very own Dragon Dreams, and anybody else who's popped up on the chat while I've not been paying attention.
Good evening. Let's go to some music. Here's one by my good buddy, Sirine. This one's called Emergency. That's Emergency by Sirine.
That chugs along rather splendidly.
I love that sort of Meshuggah type of Mick Gordon style, very rhythmic, heavy guitar bombardment.
Yeah, I know when Sirine posts screen caps of the waveform of his pieces of music when he puts them on Slack, they're just sausages. It's like, yeah, but who cares if they sound like that? Rock on.
Oh, so yeah, very, very good. Hope we get a lot more of those. So, very selfishly, I haven't talked in a whole week, but very selfishly, I wanted to talk this episode about a subject that is rather important and interesting to me, because I used to be a guitar instructor, and that got me into thinking a lot of people that I instructed, rather keen teenage boys who wanted to play all those Metallica solos, they were always struggling with trying to get over that hump of how do you get from like getting your fingers to move at the appropriate speed. and I don't know. It seems like a lot of people on FAWM don't seem to be too concerned with that subject because it's mostly about finding good chord progressions and finding nice ways to arrange your lyrics into that song. But I've always been interested in like when you hear something rather spectacular in a Dream Theater song or something like that, you just want to be able to replicate that same thing. And it took me quite a long while to get to the point where I really just figure out how to do it. But once I knew how to do it, it just starts to it's a matter of just training your sitting muscles and just getting through the grind. But there used to be a point in my life when I just felt like there's no way I can do this. I always felt like no matter how much I practice, I'll never be able to do that. And I literally used to sit in my room with my guitar like 6 hours and try to practice different licks here and there and try to get through those. But I didn't see any progress in like.
So that's basically where I am now, because I just have more or less abandoned any dream of being able to play fast. So tell us, Juha, what is your secret?
Well, do you really want to play like that? Is this something that you're actively seeking to do?
I would love to be able to play, fast licks and sweep picking and all sorts of stuff like that, but my hands just don't do what I want them to do.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm writing a book about this subject. I have written like 57 pages of it already, and it's mostly there, but it's not in a form that's really publishing ready. But I've shown it to some people. Like there was a guy on Discord who contacted me because he was having trouble with fast licks, and I threw the book at him and said, like,
literally,
just read through a couple of pages of that, and it should help you. And he contacted me later and said, like, it took me 15 minutes to make more progress than I've made in 2 years.
Wow.
And it basically boils down to three things, and one of them is something that is really going to make a huge difference, and it is being relaxed when you play. And I don't mean being in a relaxed state of mind, like having a Hawaiian shirt on and just like, yeah, whatever, man. It's very tense in a sense. It's like you have to be very, very focused when you practice like that, because you are constantly paying attention to how the muscles are feeling in your hand. So what I found out, what is holding most guitarists back from playing fast, and this applies to all musicians really, because you are doing the same sort of progress just on a different instrument. But just because people, when they play, they tend to really just tense their hand, because that's how they learn to play. And when you're learning to play guitar, it's not a relaxed experience. It's mostly you are forcing your fingers on the fretboard. Like if I happen to have a guitar here and I'm learning to play this, I'm learning to play like Paranoid. I have to like stretch my fingers into the right spot and trying to get them to stay there. And it's not relaxed. And you learn to play it like that, and you learn to go through the song in that fashion. So that makes you think, okay, well, I guess that's what playing guitar is like, and that's how you should practice playing guitar. But it's not like that at all. You can learn to play things to a certain point like that, but then you hit that wall and you just can't break through it, because I make this comparison that you are basically trying to walk really, really fast when you should learn how to run.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
So when you're learning those basic things, and when you're learning your basics of guitar, you learn to force your fingers to to a correct position. But how you should do it, and how I measure how good of a player somebody is, it's not by how fast you can play, but how relaxed you can play. So, well, I should just take this back. But so if you have a guitar and you are, for example, you want to play that power chord, the thing is you don't like place your fingers on top of it and then press down. No, no, no. What you learn to do is you just learn to throw your fingers there, and if you throw them, then they are very relaxed because you don't have time to like position them in the right place. You just learn, like in basketball, when you if you're holding the ball, you learn to aim and then apply the correct amount of force to the motion, so that the ball goes into the hoop. Same way, you learn to throw your fingers so that they land in the right place. But the thing is, when you try to force things into the place, that adds a lot of tension to your hand. So you can't move it as fast. If you're playing air guitar, like you playing with a song like this, then your hand is always completely tension free, because you're not trying to aim at some specific frets or some specific strings. You're just moving it with the song, and that's how it should feel when you're playing with real guitar. So you just learn how to move things really, really fast like this on the guitar, and make sure that the fingers are just falling in the right places. And when you learn how to throw the fingers like this, then you are not forcing them into some place. You'll just learn that if I apply this much, like if I apply this much power here and I throw it here, it lands on that spot. So I hope that makes some sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The whole thing about trying to walk quickly instead of learning to run, it's like I can really see that. That's yeah, right. I'm fired up now. I'm going to have to try and play guitar faster.
Yeah, it's very much a different technique. It's not, you can't really, because you really, what happened to me is that I learned to play the way I did, and my thought process is, okay, I got here by doing this. Now how do I get from here? How do I make this technique go faster? And the thing is, you can't make it go faster because it's the wrong technique. You have to
Because
learn
it's the wrong technique. Yeah.
So,
that's where I'm going wrong.
yeah.
Hopefully.
But you can absolutely.
If that is where I'm going wrong, that gives me hope that I can find a new technique that will let me do what I want to do.
Absolutely. I don't think there's anybody in the world really with, like, you would have to have some really, really severe deficiency in like motoric skills. What do we call those? But
yeah, motor skills, psychomotor skills.
Yeah. So if you're basically like a normal human being, you can play like that. You just have to learn how not to do it. And like, I have so much to say about this subject. It's just, we have like an hour. I could go on and on and on. So yeah, I've written a lot of it down, and I can definitely share the link to the PDF that I have if people are interested.
And lots of agreement in the chat. Dragon Dreams is saying, yeah, he teaches all that. Mel was saying, I can't play guitar because my hands aren't big enough. And Dragon Dreams has said the thing about that small hands is it's also a bit of a myth. There are some great videos of tiny kids playing full-size bass guitars.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, there is an Indian bassist called Mohini Day. And I mean, she started appearing on YouTube videos when she was like 11 or 12 years old. and a Fender P bass on her back then was enormous, and she was just blowing grown men out of the water.
Yeah, but with that, I would say that it's the same thing, that you're just, when you're moving your hand on the neck, what people normally tend to do when they're learning is they try to, like, they have their one finger on one fret and they try to stretch the other finger to go to the other fret. Because it's safer, it feels safe. Like, if I'm here, I'm not going to do anything wrong if I just stretch it there. And what I teach is, don't worry about it. Just throw the finger there. Maybe it goes there, maybe it doesn't. But at least you keep your hand relaxed. And just keep throwing your finger around the neck. And you're gonna, when you start to play like that, it's gonna sound horrible. It's gonna sound like absolutely like a disaster. Because you're basically learning to play from the beginning. You never really learned how to play. So now you're starting again. But it's not really, you already have all that knowledge from like all those songs you have learned and all the techniques and those sort of things. You're just learning the motoric skills again. So it's a fast process really when you start to learn the right way. But yeah, if you're trying to force it to sound the right way, then it's not gonna work. But if you're just trying to force it to feel the right way and try to throw the hand to the neck and see, like, oh, it went there, okay, maybe if I throw here, oh, it went there, and maybe if I throw here, and you just keep fixing the thing and keep fixing the throw, not the position of the fingers. Then you're getting like better feel to the playing.
Right.
And that's really what's
a sort of contrast of throwing and putting. They're two very, very different motor skills.
Well, it's like I go back to basketball because it's such a good analogy. If you have your ball and you have to get it through the hoop, you can either throw it or you can like take it and then walk to the hoop and then go up a ladder and then like drop it in. So we can both agree that throwing it is going to be faster.
Yeah.
But it's just, it doesn't feel as safe. It feels more of a risk, and it is, because you don't really know that it's going to go there. And if you watch like really these players who play really fast stuff, they make a lot of mistakes. Even the like John Petrucci's and even Guthrie Govan and these guys, they sometimes make mistakes. They play, and Guthrie, he has this one crazy like tapping lick on one of his songs, and it's just like, I saw him play it once on a clinic or whatever, and he said like, okay, let's see how this goes. It sometimes goes right, and he just played it and it went like pretty well. But that's the thing, when you try to play things fast, it's not like it's always going to be correct. You're applying the sort of feeling to the motion and trying to get a correct result based on that. Sure.
I saw a review of Jeff Beck many years ago when he played the Birmingham Symphony Hall, and I was at that concert. And the reviewer had said pretty much what you've just said there, that, you know, Jeff tries, what he does or what he tries to do is right at the limits of his abilities. So sometimes he crashes and burns, but when he pulls it off, you just sit there going, how did he do that?
Yeah. And of course, the more you play the thing, the more you're improving the odds that it's going to go right every time you try it. But it's always a little bit of a gamble. Like, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't.
There is a YouTube video of Jeff Beck on a show on Sky Arts, I think it was, where the guy asks him to play a track that's on, I think it's on Jeff Beck's Guitar Shop, called Where Were You?, which is all about using a tremolo bar, the whammy bar, to bend harmonic notes. And every time I've seen him play that live more than once, and every time he just nails it. And having used a tremolo arm, the idea of actually bending it to specific pitches and doing that 3 times on one sounded harmonic note, I mean, the guy's playing is uncanny, it has to be said.
Yeah.
But he has been doing that for like 55 years.
Yeah, it starts to become second nature to you at that point. Absolutely.
Good stuff. Shall we have another piece of music?
That's a great idea. We got one here by, I think it's Croways. Croways? Well, the song is called Deine Liebe befreit nicht.
Konzentrische Kreise, Wind weht leise und das Wasser so eisig, es raubt mir die Luft. Scherben fliegen, fallen, liegen und das Wasser so eisig, ein Meer aus Glas. Deine Liebe befreit nicht, deine Augen Salz und Blei und deine Lippen, sie flüstern, es war nie genug. Deine Liebe befreit nicht, dein Herz, Blut und Stein und deine Stimme so eisig singt, es war nie genug. Worte schneiden die Stille in beiden unseren Herzen, ein Zögern, ein Warten auf mehr. Träume verwehen und unser Sehnen nach der Liebe des anderen, es hat nicht gereicht. Deine Liebe befreit nicht, deine Augen Salz und Blei und deine Lippen, sie flüstern, es war nie genug. Deine Liebe befreit nicht, dein Herz, Blut und Stein und deine Stimme so eisig singt, es war nie genug. Warten auf ein Wunder, auf ein Ende, auf ein Wort. Und während du noch wartest, bin ich schon lange fort. Deine Liebe befreit mich, deine Augen Salz und Blei und deine Lippen, sie flüstern, es war nie genug. Deine Liebe befreit nicht, dein Herz, Blut und Stein und deine Stimme so eisig singt, es war nie genug. Nie genug.
Deine Liebe befreit nicht by Croways. I don't really know what that reminded me of. It's just, I'm getting very strong emotions when I hear that synth sound. Like, it's just really nice.
That is I know when she posted. I seem to be feeding back a little bit. Let's turn myself down a bit. She was saying when she posted that song that she doesn't like what the Germans called Schlager music, which is like, oh crikey, was it Tom Jones's song "Please Release Me"? All very sort of melodramatic, very mournful, very emotional songs. The Germans go a bundle on that sort of stuff, and they actually have their own genre, whereas we just call it pop music. But that is a really good Schlager song. It's a really good pop song.
Yeah, I
Really
like
good.
it. Really, really nice. Yeah, it gets me. I like songs where they get me into that sort of emotional state. Like just you get to that, I don't know, feeling when you're watching out the window, and it's got that rainy day mood. It's just really does wonders.
Yeah.
Really good.
And she has a superb voice as well. So Garrett said, great airy sound and nice vocals. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Well, getting back to the topic at hand, I mentioned I had three points to my little practice method, and the second one, in addition to the relaxed throwing thing, what I practice is visualization, which I know a lot of people talk about it, and it's always like, well, the Olympian sprinters use visualization to somehow see their performance in their mind, and then they somehow can do it. But that's not really it. What I learned when I really learned to do visualization is I learned that it is more about seeing a performance or seeing some sort of action in your mind and then studying that action. Because your mind, weirdly enough, I've found this to be true, when I try to imagine some sort of motion with guitar, for example, that I have never done before, my mind can just summon up an image of it. Like if I want to play a piece of some solo, like John Petrucci solo, for example, I just think about it in my head. I might be sitting here with my guitar, and I might be thinking about the thing in my head, and I can see him play it. I can see how his hands move. I can see what he's doing when he plays that thing. And the point with visualization then is to observe, examine how he does that thing, how the motion in the picture is happening, and you can slow it down. It's just like put it on slow-mo and just try to see like how does the hand move in the picture. And that has helped me immensely when I try to learn things. And the point isn't really to try to mimic movements per se. It's more about trying to mimic the way you think those movements feel. So if you have him doing some sort of movement with the guitar, with his fret hand, for example, you just think about, okay, if that was my hand, how would my hand feel if it was doing that motion? You just think about the muscles from inside of your hand and how they are moving, and try to reproduce that with your own guitar. Have you ever tried visualization or anything like that?
Well, it's funny because French Dogi said it's very helpful in extreme sports, and my handle on FAWM and everywhere else, head first only, actually comes from a skiing club that I used to run. So it's going downhill head first only was our sort of skiing ethic. And visualization, certainly when you're looking at a black run like the wall in Avoriaz or something like that, you look at it and you plot your route and you visualize what you're going to do to get from the top of the run to the bottom of the run without killing yourself. So it's something I've done in skiing for years, but applying it to guitar, that's not actually something that had occurred to me.
Yeah, I found it very useful, and I can do it in many different ways. Sometimes I just think about like my own hand. I might close my eyes and then I just think about like, okay, this is my hand. If I were to play this thing, like it could be like some sort of, and if I were to play that, how would my hand move? I see the hand moving and I see it doing it effortlessly and very relaxed, and it just everything is just falls into the right place and I don't need to strain myself. And then I think about, well, how does that feel? How do the muscles feel when they are moving like that? And then I open my eyes and I try to replicate that feeling. I try to make my hand feel like that when I move it on my actual guitar. Or I could be thinking, if I'm playing somebody else's thing, I might be thinking them playing it. Or I might even check out a music video of them playing if I just can't figure it out. And I just look at like what do they actually do when they play that thing. And then I can slow it down, I can think it in my head, and I can just try to figure out how does that feel in my hand when I move it like that.
We've got a big yes in capital letters from Garrett Kirby. Hiya, Garrett. About visualization. He says he uses it both in playing and in sports. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna try it. And it's funny because part of that, it's like, oh right, okay. So the idea of seeing a performance on YouTube. So I might have a record where a guitarist's played something and I listen to it over and over and over and over again and cannot figure out how he's doing it. And yet I see a video of him playing it just once. And it's like, oh, right. Now I understand what is going on.
Yeah. Yeah, it is weird. Sometimes... I've transcribed music quite a bit to like Ultimate Guitar and that sort of thing, and it's weird when you've done it for 10 years, 20 years almost. You when you're listening to tracks like just somebody playing a guitar solo, you almost start to hear what string they are playing. Like this, even on high gain settings. They're playing like down some sort of vibrato, and it's like that's a G string. That's gotta be a G string. It just sounds like G string, and you start to pick like very specific sounds, and like that's a hammer-on, and that's done like this, and you start to hear those things. But I know what you mean. There are some things that you just can't figure out. It's like, what is that sound? How is it playing that?
So, I mean, a classic example of that is a lot of the very, very strange techniques that Joe Satriani uses. So a lot of the swoops and dive bombs and all sorts of screaming harmonics that he was doing, it was like, what is he doing? Because you can try it with your fingers anywhere on the neck and nothing happens. And then I went and saw him live, and he actually crosses his hands over. He's actually pushing the strings down or pushing the neck down, so it's all done at the bridge. He's not using the guitar neck at all. It's just very, very, if you want to see a master of the metal guitar, a metal guitar god, he taught Steve Vai how to play, gave Steve Vai guitar lessons because they went to the same school, and Joe was 4 years older than Steve was. Do check out Joe Satriani's stuff because he's been a hero of mine for decades.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
And there is a guy who can just do. I've actually got Joe's book, Strange Beautiful Music, which is about his life, and there's a blurb on the back, and the blurb on the back says, "Having toured with Joe, and having shared a stage with Joe, and having watched Joe play in concert, I still have absolutely no idea how he does what he does." And that's from a certain Mr. Robert Fripp, who is no slouch on the guitar himself.
I'd say. Yeah, and Joe keeps producing like really good tracks even today. It's just released Sahara, his latest single, which is... I saved it. It's not like... I always like what he does. It's not something you can say about every musician that's been doing music since the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's had some weird gigs in his time. So he, at one point, he was the guitarist in Mick Jagger's band.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
No, I haven't heard of that.
Yeah.
I followed their stuff when he was in Chicken Food, and then he said then that it was like the first band that he has ever been to that was actually like his band, or well, like a band that he was really a founding member of. So it's yeah, some people are like that. They're never really in a band. Really, they're just it's a gig. It's like a job.
Yeah. Yeah. Dragon Dream says there's a fabulous Corey Wong video where he'd asked Joe to play on one of his pieces. It's incredible. Corey tries to dissect it and fails. I do like Corey's videos, actually. I do watch those occasionally. Corey Wong on YouTube. He has his own TV show now, doesn't he? I believe. Could be wrong.
Yeah, but Corey's great. Yeah. We got a short song here. It's by Arlonek 3. This is a pretty weird one, but I think it sort of fits the Valentine's theme. So this one's called I'm Ugly, I'm Ugly, I'm Pretty, I'm Pretty. I'm Ugly, I'm Pretty, I'm Pretty by Arlonek 3. I wouldn't really call that a rainy day song. It's more like the replicators are taking over.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out the time signature on that, and I've just given up.
Right. That'll keep you busy, huh? But yeah, like you said in chat, that's an incredible synth song.
Yeah, very definitely. Really interesting production as well, because the vocals really are textural as much as they are actually stating the lyrics. So it's a very disorienting listen. Was the cropping up in the comments quite a lot for that song on the February album writing month page for it, but I don't think that was in a bad way. Certainly it wasn't when I was using it. It's just very, very trippy.
Yeah, something different.
I like that one.
Yeah, me too. So we're finally to the third thing, and it's something Dragon Dreams said in the chat room. I said, I also teach, and one of the important things is to try to get the student out of the negative mindset. A lot of people build their own mental hurdles. And interestingly enough, we seem to have the same ideology, because that's really is the third thing that I'm always thinking, that I'm always teaching, is that you have to build up your focus. And because the relaxation and the visualization, they require a lot of focus. So if you're really putting all your efforts into learning a piece of music, you can do it really, really fast. if you need to be able to perform it whenever, then I would suggest that you need to learn it every day for a week. But if you apply these methods, you will you will see progress really, really fast. But it takes a lot of focus. And if I practice like that for half an hour, I will feel kind of exhausted, because it's like constant focus. And what helps with focus is that you have to start to get rid of some sort of limiting beliefs and mindsets that you are holding in your head. Because those things, when you pick up your guitar, you're already feeling like, this is going to be one of those. I can't play this, and I'll never learn this, and I hate guitar. And even if you're practicing, you can practice for 6 hours, and if you keep just like revolving that same thought process in your head, you're not going to get anywhere, because your focus is not in the playing. You have to have clear mind so you can focus on what you're doing. And so one of the things that really helps with getting a clearer head is just letting go of those limiting beliefs. And it's easier said than done, certainly, and I struggled with that daily. But it's something I noticed the most progress when I had a difficult piece. And I always almost feel like I have some sort of luck that I just can't get it to work. And when I say to myself, it's okay. It's okay that you can't play this, and it's okay that it sounds like shit. Then all of a sudden, I play it a few times, and it just works. It starts to. I'll be able to play. And there's something weird that happens. I play the thing for another time, and it's like it goes really badly, and I just keep telling myself, okay, it's fine. It can go like that. And I allow it to go really badly. And I play it again, it goes really badly, and I'm like, okay, it's fine. It can go really badly. And it's like I'm cleaning up my head. And when I play it a couple more times, it just I start to focus more. I pay attention to what I'm doing. I pay attention to the visualization stuff. And it just works. It's like magic. And when you let go of the goal, all of a sudden you are able to achieve it.
Yeah, Garrett Kirby says in the chat, structured practice is hard because it is new. Playing a phrase once you've mastered it is fun. Yeah, structured practice, directed practice, having a goal in mind. And that is something. So some of you guys do Rocktober after 5090, where you do a cover version of somebody else's piece of song. And that's a great way of pulling the song apart to find out how it was put together. And a couple of years ago, decided that I was going to do one of the pieces of music that Jan Hammer wrote for the Miami Vice TV show. Having forgotten that there's this blistering keyboard solo halfway through it. And it's like, oh, right, okay, I've committed now. I have to be able to play this keyboard solo on the synth. And the way that I achieved that was to load the song into Ableton and then literally just take each bar at a time and just go, well, that bar, this happens. And it might just be 3 notes. And then I'll take 2 bars. So I'll do the first 3 notes and the second 3 notes. And then the next bar might have 18 notes in it. But, you know, if you slow down Ableton, you eventually figure out, oh, right, okay, he's doing that. So for me, deconstructing a piece is a way that I can sometimes get around that block of saying I can never play that. Because yeah, okay, if you're playing a minute-long guitar solo and you're just trying to plow through it from start to finish every time, then maybe it's better to just chunk things. Because I mean, been an educational psychologist for most of my professional career. I learning how people learn is something that that was my master's and whatever else that I've done over the last 30 odd years. And that idea of chunking, that idea of scaffolding, of putting support processes in, of splitting things up into little easily digestible chunks. Really, really useful learning techniques. And yeah. Dragon Dreams also says Zen Guitar by Philip Toshio Sudo is a great read for this stuff.
Should read that one. I think I've heard of that one before. Yeah.
There you go. That's the book that Dragon Dreams is talking about. It is very, very good indeed. Another good one is there's a series of books that are all about, oh crikey, now what the heck's they called? I've not got them in here because they're on my Kindle. But there's the Inner Game of Tennis was the first one, which was a guy writing about the psychological aspects of playing tennis. And there is a sequel that he wrote with a number of orchestral musicians called The Inner Game of Music.
Timothy Galway?
Is good.
Timothy Galway?
That's the one. Yeah, The Inner Game of Music. That's another really good one.
Classic Guide to the Mental Side of Peak Performance.
Yep.
Oh.
There's a whole series of Inner Game books, but the music one is really, really good.
Yeah, sounds interesting. Yeah, I definitely agree that if you have a long piece of solo with tons of notes, you absolutely have to break it into parts if you want to learn it. But what my point was that if you're trying to learn the whole thing, if you have a performance coming up, you're trying to learn the John Hammer solo for a gig, and you hit some sort of block, like I just can't get this to work. That's when you have to just let go of the goal, and that might be the key to getting over that hurdle into some sort of state where you can start working on it again. Because a lot of times I feel like I'm just sitting there with the guitar and just practicing, and I'm making no progress. And it can be a lot of things, but that's one of the things that when I just let go of the goal, all of a sudden I get sort of some sort of confidence to do it. It's not confidence really. It's more about like focusing on the block. It's like having some sort of mental image that I just can't do it, and this always fails and it always goes wrong. And when you give yourself permission to just let it go wrong, it's okay if you fail. It's okay if it's a complete disaster. Then it's not polluting your mind anymore. Your thoughts aren't all circling these bad thoughts. So your thoughts are then free to focus on the practice.
So Dragon Dreams asks, would you agree there is a difference between practicing in terms of learning a piece as opposed to practicing in order to develop technique?
Yes, I think practicing a piece. Well, practicing a piece can have both things related to it, because when I'm practicing a piece, it's mostly about memorizing the thing. If I'm practicing a vocal performance, I have to learn the words, so that's like memorizing stuff. But then it's also about learning how to perform the thing. Like if there's a really high note or some sort of passage, then I have to learn that side of that piece too. So yeah, I'd say if you're practicing a piece, you need both. But if you assume that you are a machine like Guthrie Govan who can play everything under the sun, then I would say that practicing a piece is just a matter of memorizing what happens.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point. The reason Guthrie can play anything is because he inherently knows all the different scales, and he knows the different modes and the different scales and where to play them on the neck. And when he hears a piece of music, even if it's a piece of music that he's never heard before, he will recognize in that piece of music the scales and the modes and the positions on the neck that will fit that particular piece of music. And I mean, we were talking in the chat about Alan Holdsworth. I mean, he basically came up with his own schematics and shapes and scales and modes of playing on the guitar neck that he could then improvise with on any piece of music, because he would go, right, we're playing in, B flat minor, or some Mixolydian, or I mean, there's one piece of music where all he plays are dominant chords, and the piece is called The Dominant Plague. And because he just knows through practicing in scales and knowing where the I guess the memory of where to put your fingers on the neck to be fitting in with what's going on in the piece of music that you're playing.
It's that's why I said, we were talking about this earlier in one of the earlier episodes, that when I'm writing a song, I just skip the part where I pick up the guitar and I just sing the thing on tape. I just sing whatever is in my mind, and when I have that recorded, I can then listen to it and then figure out how I play with the guitar. Because that's the idea of writing a song, is, to me at least, is hearing what is inside you and trying to get that out. And I'm not Guthrie Govan on guitar. If I practiced a ton, I might get close. But the thing is, when I pick up a guitar and I try to figure out how do I get the sounds out that I have inside me, that is going to be a bad process. It's going to take a lot of time and a lot of trial and error, and I'm going to get really frustrated. So oftentimes I just sing the thing, and then I learn how to play that thing on guitar, and it makes more sense to me, because then it's the end result matches more closely to what I actually have inside.
Then we're back to that visualization of
yeah.
knowing what you want to achieve, of having an image of it.
That is very good, and that's a good tip for practicing improvisation. Is just listen. What do you hear inside? Like, what do you hear in your head? What is the thing that you want to play? And then find the fastest way to achieve that on your instrument. That's a really fun way to practice.
Yeah.
Interestingly, since I learned this, what should I say? Probably like 2011, like 10 years ago, or a little over 10 years ago, is when I started to really figure out how to play these faster things. And after that, I've gradually started to lose interest with them. I've had my electric guitar in the bag and in the storage for like 3 years. I haven't touched it much at all. I've played my acoustic guitar a lot more, and it's just like these campfire songs, and I like them because I can play them and I can sing simultaneously, and that's just a lot more fun to me. When I learned that I can play whatever I want, because remember, I used to think that no matter how much I practice, I can never play this. When I figured out that, no, actually, if I practice enough, I can play this, I started to lose interest in those things. It's more like, well, why would I want to play those solos? And when I asked that question, I couldn't come up with an answer. Some of them are fun, and some of them really improve the music, but a lot of the time it's just showing off, and I don't really have that much interest in that.
So I guess in its way, that's another kind of mental block of fixating on something that you think is unattainable, and then when you discover that actually it is attainable, you can get rid of almost like the attraction of focusing on something that may be a dead end, and then taking a step back and saying, well, what do I actually enjoy doing musically? What are the things that make me happy musically? And I think when you start looking at music from that sort of perspective, rather than attempting to please an audience, say, or following a musical trend of, what do I like doing? And doing that's when you start to discover your own voice as a musician that isn't, well, I'm, the pound shop version of Guthrie Govan or Joe Satriani. It's like, no, I'm me.
Yeah. And it's very interesting because I've often had a lot of people telling me on FAWM and wherever that, okay, are you gonna make a lot of those cool solos this time? Are you gonna play those shredding guitar solos? And I'm like, well, probably not. I don't really want to anymore. I do them sometimes, but it's just a lot of work, because even then you have to write a solo that can be like 200 notes, and then you have to learn how to play those. Even if you're playing them in small snippets and just piecing it together, it's still like you have to. It's a bit of a process. So I just don't think the payoff is something that interests me, and that is something that I've often lamented when Kevin Moore left, the original keyboard player for Dream Theater, when he left the band. He was such a great fit for that band. He brought such an amazing sound that he had inside of him to the songs that they were playing at that time. But he had no interest in soloing, like literally zero. When the guys used to start playing, when there was the solo section of the gig, like Petrucci and Portnoy and Ma Young started to play those long solos, Kevin Moore was like out of there. You wouldn't see him on the stage. He was just like, yeah, call me when you start playing the songs again. And he was on, they were talking about this in one of the commentary tracks to, I think it was the Tokyo show. And Portnoy was saying, I think it was Portnoy was saying that it's weird that he was on the stage when they were playing those solos, because normally he was just gone. But I guess because they were recording, he had to be on the stage while they were playing solos.
This is taking me back to seeing Spinal Tap at the Royal Albert Hall in about 1991, because I actually saw him live. And during Nigel Tufnell's guitar solo, Harry Shearer, the drummer, Derek Smalls, actually leaves the stage, climbs into a limo, gets rushed down to South Kensington, has a curry in an Indian restaurant, and then gets back in the limo, gets ferried back to the Royal Albert Hall, and comes back on stage and sits back down just as his guitar solo. It's just the most fantastic set piece I've ever seen at a gig. It's just brilliant. But their new keyboard player is quite handy on the keyboards, I have to say.
Yeah.
Mr. Rude.
Yeah, I think he's a good fit for Petrucci, and well, Portnoy isn't with the band anymore, so I don't know. It's just not the band I grew up with. Well,
Things change.
Yeah.
Things change. They really do.
we still have the old albums. So.
Freaking out in the 1990s when I bought an album by a band called ELP, but it was Emerson, Lake and Powell. That was back in the time when Carl Palmer left the band, so they got Cozy Powell in instead. God rest his soul, he was an amazing drummer.
Ah, I see. I didn't
But
even know that.
that's not the ELP that I grew up with as a kid.
It's the wrong LP. Well,
I love the fact that they at least made an effort to find a percussionist whose surname actually did begin with P.
yeah, that's like take some commitment.
Yeah.
I mean, you play okay, but so your name is more. We can't. Have to find somebody else. You imagine the advert looking for drummers with surnames starting with P.
Yep.
Oh, I guess that works. All right, well, that's the show for today. We got another one coming up next Wednesday. That's the 16th of February, and we'll be live 7 p.m. GMT, like usual. And if you want us to feature your songs on the show, remember to send us your songs through this form that I'm linking on the chat, and we'll take a look and we'll try to play as many of them as we can. So,
Indeed. And if anybody fancies being a guest on the show, please let us know, because we would love to have you in for a chat on FAWMtalk before the end of the month.
absolutely. Let's get more people to love talk.
Indeed. And we will be back with our non-pink FAWMtalk setup.
Oh,
on
promises. I have one last song here. This one is by Appalls. Appalls? I don't call it Appalls. And the song is called Sputnik 1. So until Wednesday, have a great FAWM, everybody.
Cheers, folks.
Today, a new moon is in the sky, a 23-inch metal sphere placed in orbit by a Russian rocket. You are hearing the actual signals transmitted by the Earth-circling satellite, one of the great scientific feats of the age.
What goes up doesn't always come down. Sometimes you burn up before you hit the ground, and other times you just keep floating around. What goes up doesn't always come down. They said I was a rising star, the pride and joy of the USSR. On the 4th of October I was ready to go, but they never spoke a word about me coming home. They just said what goes up doesn't always come down. Sometimes you burn up before you hit the ground, and other times you just keep floating around. What goes up doesn't always come down. Gave me a pat on my fuselage, wishing me udачи and до свидания. With the roar of the rockets, it wasn't long till I circled the earth, sending my song. Hey, look, Ma, I can see China. Hey, look, Ma, I can see Spain. I can see all these people worried about the future. You can be sure that I'm worried about the same. Because what goes up doesn't always come down. Sometimes we burn up before we hit the ground. Other times we just keep floating around. What goes up doesn't always come down. What goes up doesn't always come down. Sometimes we burn up before you hit the ground. Other times